Hey guys, I am Bilal. I'm the CMO of Agilitas Advisory, and welcome back to the second episode of the Agilitas Advisory Podcast. Today, I have the most nicest and the most kindest partner of Agilitas. I have Martin with me. Good morning, Martin. How are you?
Good morning, Bilal. Yes, I am kind and nice. We're all nice, but I suppose you're right. I am the nicest. I'll take that as a compliment.
I noticed, Martin, you have a really strong accent. Where did you get your accent from?
Well, I come from a very exciting country where we invented golf, whiskey, television, and multiple things. I come from Scotland. Uh, I'm sure you've probably seen the movie Braveheart, but I actually come from Edinburgh, which is a financial city. And yeah, I grew up in Scotland where it was cold and windy. So that's why I decided to leave. So I wanted to go to somewhere a lot warmer. So believe it or not, that's why I ended up in Canada, which is also cold and windy. So I'm not exactly a good decision maker, am I?
That's really cool. That's really cool. So, thanks a lot, Martin, for your time this morning on our second podcast. Our first one was with Ron, our managing partner, who talked about the vision and the big picture of Agilitas. Today, we are drilled down with you, Martin, on your career and your global travels, and any thought you would like to share with our followers on risk intelligence, strategic decision making, and your leadership journey. Welcome.
So, for first of all, thanks very much for the opportunity to have a podcast. This is actually my very first podcast, even though I've presented to many conferences, etc., all around the world. But this is my first actual podcast, so you might need multiple podcasts to fit in my career's journey. But I'll try and make it as brief as possible. So yes, I've had a very interesting career. I actually left school at 16 and went straight to work for a global insurance company as an actuarial student. And that was a long time ago in 1979. And the reason why I left school at 16, I didn't want to go to university. It was because I wanted to buy a motorcycle. And my mother and father said, well, if you want to buy a motorcycle, you need to earn some money. So I applied in Edinburgh, and I always remember these three numbers. I applied to 13 companies, was given 8 interviews, and was offered 5 jobs, all in financial banks and insurance companies in Edinburgh. But that was in 1979, so times have obviously changed. So I joined the insurance company, pensions company, and I very quickly learned I didn't want to be an actuary or calculate pensions for the rest of my career. So I then went into the marketing department. I showed an interest, and they took me on board, and I really enjoyed that. And this is actually quite an important piece. In my career, I've always not left somewhere. I've always wanted to go somewhere. So when I realized that marketing was quite cool, I thought, okay, great, I'll go into that department. I did that for a couple of years. Then I went into the IT department, and that's when I became a computer operator. And I worked 24-hour shifts with a big IBM mainframe, running overnight batch work, printing off policies and checks for people's pensions. And that's when the whole world of computers started for me, which was really exciting. And then after working several years in the computer department, I decided to join the internal audit department. And that's when I lost all my internal friends because I then started auditing all my IT friends that I'd been working with for the last few years, which was quite fun. But it was actually a great learning opportunity because I knew the IT operations, but I didn't know anything about internal audit. But I quickly learned, and I had a great mentor in Scotland who helped me do auditing from common sense rather than from an audit checklist. So I really enjoyed that. And then after 17 years of working with the insurance company, I decided to move my whole family down to London, and I worked with Citibank. And that's when the world opened up to me. And as a matter of fact, this is quite a funny story. I sat down with my new global audit leader, and he said, "Where do you think you would like to go for your first audit?" And I said, "Oh, Hawaii would be great, or somewhere nice like that." He said, "No, I'm sending you to Pakistan, and I'm sending you to their capital city." And I said, "Oh, wow, that's fantastic." So I actually went to Karachi as my first IT audit, and that was unbelievable. I still remember the food was fantastic. And basically went all around the world with Citibank, auditing all their systems and risk management processes. And then 2, 3 years later, I was approached by the same recruiter, and he said, "Hey, why don't you earn more money and be the global head of audit?" So I joined a Japanese bank, also in London, and went all around the world with that Japanese bank. Went to Japan, gave presentations to the Japanese Financial Services Authority, even helped to write a Japanese book on internal controls in Japanese. Still have a copy in my library here, which is a fantastic legacy. So, yeah, well traveled. And then to finish off the final sort of stages, I came to Canada in 2001, joined Deloitte, worked with Deloitte as a senior manager and doing risk management internal audit. And then Deloitte asked me to go to Mongolia to set up a brand new office. So I went to Mongolia, worked with Rio Tinto and all the big mining companies and banks, and setting up an actual Deloitte office from scratch, which was an amazing experience. Then I came back, and then I eventually left Deloitte and went to the Middle East and worked for a global billionaire family in Dubai. Again, traveling all around the world, flying in private jets and also on the owner's private big mega yachts. So that was a fantastic experience. And then eventually came back to Canada, where I've been doing risk consulting for various companies in various roles. And now I'm in my final stage of my career. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm now with Agilitas, and I'm very excited about what we're building. And it's an amazing team. And you've been an amazing addition to our team, leading the marketing strategy, which is great. So that's really appreciated.
Thank you, Martin, for your kind words. I believe you have enjoyed a lot of good foods around this career and this time frame.
Yes, well, I've been to over 50 countries. So as I traveled around the world, I made sure I could always say please, thank you, and can I have a beer, please? And at one point, I could say that in about 30 languages. So yes, I like to build relationships with people globally, and that for me was the key learning point. People are the same all around the world. It's just that they have different languages and different cultures. So when I went to all these countries, I was there as an auditor. So when you're there doing business and audit, not as a tourist, you actually get to understand the people from a different perspective. So that's why I regard myself as a global citizen.
That's really amazing, Martin. That's really amazing. So, my next question is that, like, so when you came to Canada in 2001, what did you do and when you joined the Big Four?
So literally, my family and I, we arrived on the Tuesday, and Deloitte put us up for a month in an apartment. On the Wednesday, we went to the supermarket. On the Thursday, we went to the bank. On Friday, we actually bought a house, closed the deal. On Saturday, I bought a car. And on the Sunday, I bought a set of golf clubs. And on the Monday, I started work with Deloitte. and was doing lots of risk consulting. So primarily rolling out enterprise risk management for the BC government and the rest of the provinces and clients right across Canada and also in the US as well. So I am basically an insurance guy who became an IT guy who then went into internal audit and then became a risk person, and now I do risk and audit consulting. So that's been my career journey. One fun story is that when I went to Mongolia, my children were both at high school. So my wife said, "Well, hope you'll be successful. Just keep on sending the money back in the bank account." And so I left my wife and my children behind when I was in Mongolia. And then when I went to Dubai, I did the same, but my children were at university. So I've got a fantastic relationship with my wife and my children. So I'm a bit of a global nomad living all around the world, but Vancouver's my home base. And the one of the many things I'm proud of is when I went to Mongolia. As you know, I left school at 16 and didn't go to university. At the weekends, I would actually go to the Mongolian government offices and universities and teach risk management, internal audit, project management, stakeholder management, all different types of topics to the Mongolian leaders. And they were shocked when they found out that I didn't have a degree because they were actually wanting to partner with my university in Scotland that I went to, but I didn't go to a university. So they were shocked. So they actually awarded me the first and the last honourable PhD in risk management from the Mongolian government. So that's why my nickname is Doc Martin. So yes, I have an honorary degree in risk management, which is quite cool. So yeah, my services in Deloitte were very mixed and covered many topics, including change management, risk management, all different types of topics. So I like to learn on every topic and not necessarily be a master or an expert in any, because I personally believe that there's no such thing as an actual expert. Expert implies that you know everything, and I think that I still have to learn every day, and I will keep on learning until the day I die. So I don't like calling myself or anybody an expert, but that's me being humble, I suppose. I suppose.
That's really awesome, Martin. That's really awesome. You have been well traveled. You have definitely been a global citizen. I'm really interested about your role at Agilitas and what exactly you bring to the table.
So internally, I'm leading and building the quality processes. So we're a company that's relatively new. We've been in existence for 2 years now, but we are a global practice already. We've got teams in Canada, we have representatives in the UK, and we also have a team in Australia, and we're going global. So we are building internal processes, so policies, procedures, how we train our people, build a culture, etc. So my prime role is the quality and risk management internally to make sure that we're consistent in everything we do. And obviously that follows the vision from Ron and our strategic planning. But also I'm combined with offering and supporting our battleground services, which is a software suite that my partner colleague Rob Wisman, he actually leads, and the SaaS software, which was initially developed by Ron when he was in Australia and other people. We actually have a global license to implement software and do consulting, and this software is amazing. It's a combination of risk, compliance, resilience, and also tabletop simulation exercises, and instant communications whenever there's a crisis. And it's all used and integrated with artificial intelligence. So I'm supporting Rob as the so-called risk expert in selling those services. And we believe that we don't sell software, we sell resilience, because software salespeople uh, don't necessarily have the true risk management experience. So that's why I'm working with Rob to do that, and we're already making some great successes in the local marketplace, which is fantastic. Um, as far as again for Agilitas, the partnership and team members, we are all refreshingly energetic. We're all honest. We love to create new ideas. Every time we have a call, when we have our Australian team, who's led by Andy Casantos, and the Australian team are fantastic. We're always creating new ideas. We're very flexible and agile, hence the name Agilitas. So it's the way we work. We really try to listen to the problem of the client, but we also just think about what is the client's client, what is the ultimate impact of how we help our clients in our projects. So being client centric is one of our key mantras, and it's leading the way in disrupting the whole risk management process in the marketplace. So the team are fantastic.
That's really inspiring, Martin. That's really cool. So before we wrap up, I was just wondering if there is anything you would like to share with our listeners on what sums up with your philosophy on risk and opportunity management. I would be really interested to hear that.
Well, that's a great story, actually. When I was in Vancouver with Deloitte, I actually had a project with one of the big Indigenous First Nations groups, and I sat down with one of the chiefs, one of the First Nations leaders, and on the wall he had a beautiful picture of an orca killer whale. So you know the black and white big whale, the hunter killer whale that you see in the ocean,
Yep.
which is very famous, especially out here on the coast. Well, I asked him about that, and he said that the orca was a very important symbol in Indigenous language because it actually means death and renewal. So it's a very spiritual animal and a very spiritual meaning. Now, at that time, I was actually rolling out risk management with various Indigenous groups in Canada, and I was using various ISO models, risk models, etc. And I kept on thinking about the orca. And even though you see it as a whale, it's not actually a whale. It's actually a dolphin. It's the biggest member of the dolphin family. So I was thinking, what's the all these risk management models? What do you see, but what do I see? We see the same thing, but like when it comes to the basics, what what is it that we can use it for to help us be successful? So that's when I actually played around with the ORCA methodology. And if you think about the four letters ORCA, I realized that all these risk management initiatives and services that consulting firms offer globally, the first stage is objectives. O for objectives. So understanding what you're trying to achieve and use the SMART model: simple, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based, etc. So really understanding what the objectives of the client are and what they're wanting to do. What are they wanting to achieve? And then there's the risks. So the R in ORCA. So the risks are basically what's going to stop you from achieving your objectives. And that's when you get into the whole language of likelihood and consequence and different risk management methodologies and the science of risk. But basically, it's what stops your objectives being achieved. And then the next stage is controls. So C, as in the word ORCA, Controls are what you use to reduce those risks, manage those risks. So people, process, technology, policies, procedures, all different types of things. And then finally, up until this point, this is all just strategy and forward thinking, but at the end of the day, you've got to take action. So after you've done all this thinking and you've done your risk management discussions and controls and objectives and all different things, what action plans are you going to take? Is it going to add value? Is it realistic? Is it achievable? So anyway, I basically created and built my whole thinking, everything I do and think whenever I speak to a client or even internally or even with my family and even discussions with my children. It doesn't matter what the situation is, whether it's a podcast or if it's a email or a discussion or whatever. What's the objectives? Then what are the risks? Then what are the controls and what are the action plans? So that's why I created the ORCA methodology, and that's how I think. And I actually have a collection of ORCA stuffed toys in my office because a lot of my clients globally have given me all different gifts and little orcas. So I have an extensive orca collection, which I think is quite funny. So that's my first tip of the podcast series is in everything you do, doesn't matter how complex the situation is, think orca, objectives, risks, controls, and action plans. And if any of the listeners would like some details on that methodology, then they can always email us, and I like to share. Because my final point is this: people don't care what you know, they want to know that you care. So, and even with you, Bilal, I've been sharing. I'm not a marketing guru, okay, but I've got lots of marketing ideas, so I like to share. So sharing is caring. So that's how I think, and that's basically who I am at my core.
That's really great, Martin. I might actually start using it myself as well. I just want to thank you for today's time and for this podcast. I'm sure we will be hearing a lot of interesting stories in the future as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thanks very much. And yeah, that was fun. And let's make this the first of many, because as you can imagine, I have a million stories and lots of things to share. So let's set up another podcast soon.
For sure, Martin, for sure. That's all, guys. See you in the next podcast with a new guest. Bye. Take care.